Pardon. So we had the function y equals 2 cosine 3x. In the first part, 2 affects the y coordinate because it multiplies the whole function, while 3 only affects the x coordinate since it only is multiplying the x. In the first case, the 2, it well affects the y coordinate and it multiplies it by 2. So in this case, we can see it in here. However, we're going to go there in a moment. And with the x or omega, it affects the x coordinate, but it's counterintuitive. So we don't multiply, but we divide. So a normal cosine function would be x is 0, then y is 1. If x is pi divided by 2, y is 0. If x is if x is pi, y is negative 1. If x is 3 pi divided by 2, y equals 0. And if x is 2 pi, y equals 1. Since we had to multiply by 2 in order to do the transformation to affect the y coordinate, it's very easy. So 1 multiplied by 2 is 2, 0 multiplied by 2 is 0, negative 1 multiplied by 2 is negative 2, 0 multiplied by 2 is 0, and 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. In this case, it's the same thing, but with 3, and it's division. So pi divided by 2 divided by 3 is pi divided by 6. Pi divided by 3 is, well, pi divided by 3. 3 pi divided by 2 divided by 3 is pi divided by 2. And 2 pi divided by 3 is 2 pi divided by 3.
Okay, so now for the graphing of the equation. So, well, first we graph the 2, we graph the original that you can see in this sort of purple color, that would be the original. And as well, so as you know, the graph for cosine, it starts at 1 because when x is 0, y is 1. So it starts here up top, then it goes, then the minimum for this, then the two maximum minimum values will be 1 and minus 1 because the amplitude is just 1. And so when you are, and so to graph it, so it starts at 1, then it crosses 0 at exactly um, pi halves because, well, as we mentioned, when x is equal to 0, when x is equal to pi half, then y is 0. Then it goes all the way down to pi because of the, well, value so above, and then it goes back up again and to pi it goes back again to 1 because, well, because when x is 2 pi, then y is equal to 1. And because we know that the function sort of ends its first cycle at 2 pi, then we can define that the period for this function would be 2 pi because after 2 pi it starts repeating itself. Then for the new values, so for the actual transform function, so y equal to cos 3x. So two things change. The first thing that change is the amplitude because the amplitude is now 2 instead of 1. So the function sort of expand upwards. So now the maximum values are 2 and negative 2 instead of just being 1 and negative 1. And it also contracts because of the 3 that is affecting the x values. And so, well, because of the values, it starts again. It's always gonna start sort of like at 0, but what's gonna change is the y value. It's gonna be multiplied by 2, so it now starts at 2. Then it's gonna will reach 0 at b divided by 6, as you saw from the values that you saw above. Then it's gonna reach negative 2 at p thirds because, well, all the values got contracted. All the x values got divided by 3 because it contracted, and therefore the graph will now be a lot much smaller, and this time in 2 pi over 3, which it would be the end because after that it won't end, but it will start repeating itself. And now, because we know that it starts repeating itself after this point, then we can define that the period for this one is 2 pi over 3, and that would be sort of like the main differences between these two, because other than that they're essentially the same graph, except that the new one is contracted and has a greater amplitude, while the other one, well, it's the original, so it has change, and that would be about it for this problem.
Thank you.